A Fruitless Assignment. Henry Saylor, a reporter for the Cincinnati Commercial, was known for his grit. He'd met his end in a brawl with Antonio Finch in Covington, but his name was forever linked to a chilling incident that occurred in 1859. A vacant house on Vine Street in Cincinnati had become the epicenter of a local frenzy, gripped by whispers of a haunting. Night after night, people claimed to see ghostly figures moving in and out of the house, their movements defying logic, their appearances shifting from witness to witness. The bolder among the curious dared to approach the house, attempting to confront the apparitions. These brave souls were met with a force beyond comprehension, hurled from the steps, injured, and left baffled as the door mysteriously opened, seemingly of its own accord, to welcome or release its phantom occupants. The house was known as the Roscoe House, named for the family who had once lived there, only to vanish one by one, their final departure marked by the disappearance of an elderly woman. Rumors of foul play and even murder swirled, but nothing was ever confirmed. One day, amidst the swirling hysteria, Saylor was assigned to the story. The city editor, his voice a tired drone, handed him a note. "Go and spend the night alone in the haunted house on Vine Street. If anything happens worth writing about, write 2 columns." Saylor couldn't afford to lose his job. After informing the police of his plans, he entered the house through a rear window before nightfall. He wandered through the empty, dusty rooms, devoid of furniture, and finally settled in the parlor, sinking onto an old sofa he'd dragged in from another room. He watched as darkness descended, the silence broken only by the murmurs of the curious crowd gathered outside. He feared making a light, as the uncurtained windows would betray his presence, subjecting him to ridicule, or even worse. He was determined to be a faithful observer, unwilling to compromise the authenticity of the reported phenomenon. As darkness enveloped the street, a faint light from the street lamps illuminated the room. Saylor had left every door open, but the exterior doors remained locked and bolted. Sudden shouts from the crowd jolted him to his feet. He rushed to the window and saw a man moving swiftly across the lawn, heading toward the house. He watched him ascend the steps, disappearing from view behind a protrusion in the wall. A sound of a door opening and closing echoed through the house, followed by heavy footsteps, the sound of footsteps climbing the stairs, and finally, the rhythmic thud of footsteps on the uncarpeted floor above. Saylor, adrenaline coursing through him, grabbed his pistol and silently crept up the stairs into the dimly lit chamber, lit only by the faint light from the street. The room was empty, but the sound of footsteps led him to an adjoining room. He stepped inside, the room dark and silent. He stumbled over something on the floor, and as he knelt, his hand brushed against it. It was a human head, the head of a woman. With a calmness that bordered on inhuman, Saylor lifted the head by its hair, carrying it back to the dimly lit parlor below. He placed it near the window, studying it intently. As he examined the ghastly trophy, he became aware of a rapid succession of sounds, the opening and closing of the front door, footsteps echoing throughout the house. He looked up from the head and found himself surrounded by a throng of indistinct figures, men and women, filling the room. He thought the crowd had broken in. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice surprisingly steady, "I understand this may seem suspicious, but—" His words were drowned out by a cacophony of laughter, a terrifying chorus of maniacal glee, the kind of sound that echoed through asylums for the insane. The figures pointed at the head in his hands, their laughter growing louder as he dropped it, the head rolling among their feet. They danced around it, kicking it, pushing each other, their movements obscene and grotesque. their laughter echoing through the house. The head bounced from wall to wall, seemingly trying to escape the relentless torment. Finally, it rolled out of the door and into the hallway, pursued by the crowd in a frenzy. The door slammed shut behind them, leaving Sailor alone in the suffocating silence. He put away his pistol, his hand still trembling, and walked to the window. The street was empty, silent. The lamps were extinguished, the building's sharp silhouettes against the approaching dawn. He left the house, the door yielding to his touch, and made his way back to the commercial office. The city editor was asleep at his desk. Sailor woke him, saying, "I've been at the haunted house." The editor's eyes fluttered open, confusion clouding his gaze. "Good God!" he exclaimed. "Is that you, Sailor?" "Yes, why wouldn't it be?" The editor stared, speechless. "I spent the night there," Sailor said, a hint of weariness in his voice. "They say things were strangely quiet out there," the editor said, idly toying with a paperweight. "Did anything happen?" "Nothing at all." Sailor, the hardened reporter who had stared into the face of death, left the haunted house with a story that defied all logic, a chilling testament to the power of imagination and the eerie mysteries that sometimes haunt our reality. The end. If you like the story, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Was there anything that surprised you? Who's your favorite character in the story? I can't wait to hear your thoughts.